Welcome to Evolving Waves, where we ride the tides of adversity to the shores of success. Today I'm delighted to welcome Frank and Teresa AuCoin, two longtime friends of mine, two amazing mentors, and two people that you have got to hear their story. And most importantly, you got to check out the book they just put out. It is a cheat code to success like never before. Frank, Teresa, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Before we jump in, I'd love for you guys just to kind of share a little bit about your background and what we're going to be chatting about today.
Well, before we get started, let's do this.
Sure.
I want to say congratulations on two things. Your birthday you just had.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Alan Thompson.
Appreciate it.
And it's been great being a witness to your life and seeing the growth of your company and the growth of you and your entire team here. And the new team is coming up in Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
I hope that didn't give anything away.
No, all good. All good.
So it's been thrilling watching you grow over the years. So anyway, just start out with that, okay?
Awesome.
And I do want to say we're very honored for you to be asking us to be a part of this and to be interviewed by you. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and so you guys are self-taught entrepreneurs and authors. That doesn't just happen overnight, right? It takes a world of experience and some trials, some tribulations, and a whole lot of help probably along the way to get to that point. If you wouldn't mind, kind of dive into where you started out in life and what led you to go through these, through the experiences that led you to where you are now.
Yeah, you can give a little of your background, and I'll do mine after that.
Our background. Well, goodness, let's see, it's going to be,
52 years.
yeah.
We've been married 52
Together.
years.
52 years. And you could have a whole episode on just that, right? Because that's the anomaly in America, too.
True.
Yeah. That's the best thing that ever happened to her. I can tell you that right now.
Let's see. Well, we started out, and let's see, Alan, I was finishing up college, finishing up a master's in special education, and Frank was cutting grass, and we were in love, and we had our first home in a trailer, didn't have heat, we couldn't afford it. It was very interesting, but we never thought about it really. We were just living life, and Frank led us through one adventure after another, starting with bookstores. And we have been on the journey of really just being entrepreneurs. I mean, I stopped teaching after about 8 years and got involved with Frank with the businesses. And it's just been an amazing journey. There was never a long-term plan for whatever. We were just on the project at hand always. And it's led us to right here, sitting with you. So,
Yeah. For the past 50 years, basically, we've been training entrepreneurs how to start and run businesses and grow those businesses. We'd move a business into a new city like Tampa or Jacksonville or Nashville, wherever. And we would teach them how to go in and within a year get the store up and running and doing, a couple $1 million. And so we've done that for a long time. We started that. First chain we started was a chain of bookstores. And we took up from zero to doing about $250 million. And,
$250 million
in gross sales. And those stores lasted 35 years before Amazon came out, and we sold them off. And then in the meantime, we had started another company, and every company we start, we build a red velvet team around that company, so that we can train them what to do and how to do it. And then we move on, and they run that company, and we start another company. Much like you do in all your offices. You have a super team here, and you're opening another one, you have a super team up there. So you got to, once you start something, you can't work in it, you got to work on it. So it's pretty basic. But we've had fun doing it, I'll tell you that. And so for 50-something years now, we have come up with all these different lessons, and there's 10 basic lessons. If you learn them, magical thing happens in your life. You learn the 10 legacy lessons, well, your whole life changes. You'll find that people are attracted to you, they want to do business with you, they want to recommend you to their friends. So Teresa decided that we ought to put it in a book. And so we sat down and I basically told her what to put in, and she typed it up and wrote the book, and it's done really well, really well. So,
One, just in the couple of statements you had there, there's so much to unpack, right? And you could go for hours. And for those of you who don't know Frank, you could talk to Frank for weeks and still not get all the wealth of information that he and Teresa have whenever you talk to them. It's, few people could even imagine making $250 million in revenue in a company, right? That in itself is a massive achievement.
We've done that 2 or 3 times.
And building, multiple location businesses, right?
Yeah.
Most people can't. So most businesses struggle once they hit 2 to 3 locations in one city, much less multiple cities, right? Because then you have travel, you have you're not able just to run across the city and fill in if there's an issue. The store's 5 or 6 hours away, right? There's so many things that are there that
even it's so much easier to do it once you learn the lessons. Okay, once you go through the book, you learn how to do the lessons, and it makes it 10 times easier. So
there's a recipe to this story.
There's and they're not complicated. Listen, if anybody can learn to tie their shoes, ride a bike, or drive a car, they can learn to get wealthy.
It's that easy.
It's that easy, because I know some really dumb people running some multi-million dollar businesses, but they're really good at what they do in that business. Doesn't mean they're the smartest guy in the world. I mean, I left school in the 6th grade and never went back. And I couldn't read until I was 31, and she taught me how to read because she was a special ed teacher. So it's not about that. It's about what the lessons you learn and put them to work.
Well, and that's the opposite of what society tells you, right? You've got to go to school, you've got to get 4 degrees, you got to read everything that's out there, you've got to consume every YouTube video on the planet to figure this thing out. And your story is the exact opposite. And there's so many other stories that are like that, right? There's so many people that have achieved massive levels of success that weren't raised by business owners, didn't come from a legacy of wealth of knowledge and insider, right? They're not the Vanderbilts and the people that founded the country with all the blue blood money. It's people that have other massive action or massive studying within the business.
All those people, though, let me clear it up because I want people to really understand. We're all born the same way. We're born naked, broken, ignorant. I mean, I don't care whether it's Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, whoever you want to name, they all were born naked, broke, and ignorant. And it's in the book. And yet they became millionaires. And they had to do that because they had to learn something. So there's never an earning gap. There's always a learning gap. I have a friend. I work with this guy every day. I talk to him at least 3 times a day. He makes about $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a day. Guess what he does? He became skilled. He went and learned how to put in toilets. That's what he does. He gets $250 to $300 or $400 to put in a toilet.
Wow!
If he just puts in 2 a day, he's making $500 a day, $15,000 a month.
Just putting in toilets.
If you just put
no crazy business.
2 toilets, and it doesn't matter what it is. There's been approximately, I just looked this up before I came here this morning, 117 billion people they think have lived on Earth.
Wow. We're a small fraction of what has been on this planet.
There's 8.2 billion now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Only 6,000 people have ever climbed Mount Everest. As a matter of fact, it's 6,664 as of December of last year that ever climbed Mount Everest. But every day in America, there's 1,700 people who become new millionaires.
Every day.
Every day in America. That's 620,500 people become millionaires in a year. It's a hell of a lot easier to become a millionaire than it is to climb Mount Everest.
You would not believe that, hearing that, listening to the media and the thoughts that go through your own mind.
No.
Right?
Now, I have to admit that many of those, probably about 20% of those, maybe 10% of those are left money. About 30% are probably done on through stock growing. Okay, the rest of us are like you. You were born naked, broken, ignorant. You didn't know anything about these cameras. You didn't know anything about marketing. So you had to learn how to do that. So there's never an earning gap. There's a learning gap. Once you learn to become wealthy, you can get wealthy.
And a little tip for you that's in the book. You should go listen to it.
Yeah, it's on Audible. I mean, the Audible is killer.
It's great. I spend a lot of time in the car, driving between Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida with different clients we work with and entertainment things that I enjoy. And I'm pretty much listening to audio books the whole way. I've learned. I will not say I've learned German. I've gotten pretty decent at German, but nowhere near proficient. If you start speaking it, I'm not going to understand anything you say, except for little buzzwords. But yeah, I'm learning. I learned German on my car rides. Obviously I've listened to the book now a couple times. Went back through. One of the things that we were involved with together was Legal Shield, and that was the starting of my education. I learned more from that than I did from anything else that I ever did.
Yeah.
All the personal development that we go through between the conferences and suggested books and stuff, and I've kept on doing that over the course of time. And I've listened to some of the same books now 5 or 6 times. Right, some of them are on the annual list to do, and always kind of looking for the new thing. And there are definitely some common lessons that are in the ones written by the better authors, which ironically,
but
a handful of those lessons are in your book too.
They're not gurus, though. They're gurus. You look for a guru, and a lot of people are on the internet, blogs, and everything else. They're talking, but they've never done anything. I don't ever look for gurus. I want to do a guru. I want to do people who has done it.
Yep. Check the facts on them.
You do have to study every day. You need to. I study about 3 or 4 hours in the morning, 3 or 4 hours at night, about 6 hours a day, or maybe more. And I've done it for years and years. And I learn something every day. I don't use everything, but I learn something. So you keep stacking ideas on top of ideas on top of ideas, and then when somebody asks you a question, like in marketing, you could say something as simple as, if you put a banner on that business, it'll increase that product you got on that banner 20%. Just by putting a banner on your business.
Having those nuggets make a huge difference.
It makes all the difference in the world.
Instead of knowing who the latest fashion queen is or the latest reality TV star.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the thing, right? Nobody has any time until they start auditing their time and they realize, really, you've got hours of time per day.
Yeah. I'm going to do this for you, and this is really important for everybody listening to this, is you have to develop a skill. It goes like this. You have a mindset, what you want to do, then you build a skill set, you study what you want to do, and then you can build the asset. So you go mindset, skill set, build the asset. If you do not have a skill set that people want to pay you for, like this young man you have here running all this equipment, he got the mindset he was going to learn this. He went and learned it. So he got the mindset, he got the skill set, now he's building an asset.
Yep. And it's building on top of skill sets. He actually came from running his own podcast called In All Kinds of Weather. So he brought his podcast skills into our business and taught us how to run our podcast.
Yeah. So once you learn that skill set, like we said earlier, there's 8.2 billion people on Earth. And we all have this issue I'm going to talk about. You have it, he has it, we have it, everyone listen to it. Every one of them have a problem or multiple problems. There's no one listening to this broadcast now that does not have a problem.
Isn't that the truth? Some of us have a whole lot of them.
If they don't have a problem now, they're going to have it, okay? If you have a skill set that solves that problem, they will pay you whatever you need them to pay you. But until you learn a skill set that can solve another person's problems, no one is ever going to open their wallet and give you their money. The guy I just talked about, JJ, that puts in the toilets.
Yep.
People are willing to pay him $1,000 to $3,000 a day to put in toilets. And he's a one-man operation. It's amazing. But had he not learned that skill set, no one would open their wallet. So the masses run from problems. They say, I want to get rid of all my problems. Those of us that are rich we run two problems. We try to find problems in the skill set we have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So you're looking for things within your skill set that you can essentially fix.
You're looking
right?
for people who have those problems
Okay.
in your skill set. Like the people you work with, a lot of the plumbers and electricians and car dealerships and attorneys and whoever else, they've got a problem. They want people to know they're there. And so you teach them how to get people to know they're there. Because until somebody sees their product, hears about the product, or reads about the product, their product's invisible.
Yep, doesn't
And it's
exist.
homeless. And if somebody doesn't come pretty soon and buy that product, they're going to be homeless. So in life, you want to make sure you're looking for problems in your skill set. Whether that's paint houses, or you're a doctor, you want people to come into your office. You know, you're not going to anything else but the people in your skill set. You don't have to worry about somebody's not in your skill set. But remember, 8 billion people have problems every day.
Well, and, you know, we're going through political season right now, right? And there's lots of talk about the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you mentioned in your book is a realization that you came to after falling off a ladder and about the economy and the economy that you were living in.
Okay.
Would you mind kind of breaking that down a little bit more? And most people have never heard of the fact that there may actually be two economies that exist in the world.
Well, there are basically two. And I'll guarantee you, if you forget everything else we say today and you learn this, you can make an absolute fortune. Matter of fact, it's the only way to make money. There's two economies. 97% of everyone listening to this podcast belongs to the first economy. And there's only 3% of us that belong to the other economy. So there's 3% of the people who are wealthy, and 97% of the people, or the masses, are poor middle class. And the major difference areas is that poor people go to work every day, maybe 6 to 8 hours a day, 10 hour to work, hour back, maybe 8 to 10. They do it 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, for 41.7 years on an average. Doing something they can't own, can't sell, can't leave to their family. That never made sense to me to begin with. So that's the first thing. But they go to work and they get their paycheck, and what they do is they say, I got to pay my bills, and what am I going to buy? They look at the world when they get their paycheck and say, what can I buy? The other 3% of us look at the world and say, what can we supply? Now, if you think about it, if all you're doing is working and buying, you're going to be crying. If you start supplying, you'll be flying, drinking champagne and cocaine. Because 97% of the people in the world send 3% of people all their money. So your job is to say to yourself, what product, service, or opportunity am I supplying? So in your business, you supply marketing. Every company in the world needs marketing. You have a worldwide market. But now you honed it down to you know exactly the market you want to track because you honed the skills to help the small business owner, basically. 10x their business, 20x their business. So you're either a buyer or you're a supplier. When you go to the store, there are people who are buying water, people supplying water, people buying cars, people supplying cars, people buying shoes, people supplying shoes. People buying computers, people supplying. The only people who make money are who? Who's making the money here? The buyer or the supplier?
It's got to be suppliers.
It's a supplier. And you've heard that old saying, the poor get poor and the rich get rich. This is called a refined study of the obvious. It's really obvious if you're giving all your money to somebody else, you're not going to be rich. So you want to ask yourself, what talent or skill can I supply to a group of people that need that service or problem, and they've got a problem and I can solve it? It's so simple to get rich. It's just massively simple. What are you going to supply?
Well, I mean, you look at it, right? The people that have built businesses on Amazon, right? So the thought is that Amazon's just putting everybody out of business and it's ruining things. But if you came up with a product that you could supply a lot of people utilizing Amazon as the leverage system, right? They're just your distributor. You're now a supplier.
Exactly.
I mean, it's back in the day it was eBay, right? People would find stuff to buy, mark it up, and then resell it or create something, and they would sell it on eBay.
Marketplace.
Yep, Facebook Marketplace. So there's lots of ways to do this. It's not like you've got to come up with the next Tesla, right? You can do it on a smaller scale and still create a bunch of wealth if you just find the right thing to do it with.
So you're either buying or supplying. So figure out what you want to buy or supply. How do you solve another problems with the skill set you have gained? Whether that's writing books or editing books or whatever the hell you want to learn it, because there's millions of people out there that need that service or product.
Well, I think one of the things that stood out to me after I heard this was, what entrepreneurs are great at is they will see a problem, they'll get frustrated usually by that problem, they'll solve that problem, and then that's the thing they start supplying. So if you want to figure out a way to become an entrepreneur real quick, just figure out whatever's annoying you the most in life right now and figure out how to solve it.
That's how we started the sign business. We opened a bookstore, tried to get a sign for the grand opening. Took forever.
It took like 3 months or 4 months to even get a sign up.
We had the ribbon cutting without the sign. Because at that time, now remember this is decades ago, there were only sign painters who were hand painting the signage on a piece of wood or whatever substrate. And the only one in the town we were in was he was known to drink a little bit or a lot. Anyway, it was very frustrating.
It took forever for him.
That is where the concept for the sign business started.
So I decided, every business that was opening, they had to wait 3 or 4 months or 5 months to get a sign.
Yeah.
And I said, I just got pissed off, and I said, I'm going to change this.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally if you can just beat that time, you already win the business.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so you mentioned earlier that you dropped out of school in 6th grade and that you couldn't read, right? So you already started life basically, right? As you go into the entrepreneur or adult world, and at that point, you're not even technically an adult at that point, right? You're not 18. You can't really do a whole lot in America at that age. And you can't read. Yeah. So in legacy lesson number 1, you attribute your ability to overcome this to kind of 3 key points. Do you mind sharing one of those key points,
Well,
and they can kind of figure
I-
out the other ones whenever they listen to the book?
We kind of figured it out. I mean, we talked about it a little about, before wealth creation, there's education. So I had to get educated on something. And so I got educated when I first started on painting houses, cutting grass, washing dishes, washing windows, working at a car wash. That was my skill set. I knew how to do that. And I was making almost nothing. I mean, you don't make much when you do that.
Yep.
Right, especially back then. So when I decided to do the bookstore, and it was unusual how that happened. I couldn't read, so Teresa taught me how to read when I was 31 years old. I had never read a word. So she taught me that. And then one day we were in Atlanta for some reason, I think visiting your mom or something. And I saw a little sign shop, and there was a line of people coming out of it. And even though I didn't read, I'm going to find out what those people are going in there for. So they went in there. It was a used bookstore. They were selling secondhand books. And they just had lines of customers. And so I talked to the lady who owned the store, and she told me a lot about how they ran the store and what was going on. And then I went outside and I drew the interior of the store. In my head, when I went in, I looked at everything to show, and I drew it all out, drew the front of the store. And so I went back and told Teresa, because I had just learned how to read, I said, I'm going to open a bookstore and supply people with books. I was already starting to learn that I needed to supply books to people because, a lot of people read. So,
Well, that was, it was what, in the 70s, 80s?
it was in the 70s.
70s,
Yeah.
so that would have been, TV was still a little expensive to have, right? Not everybody had one of those yet.
Oh, no internet.
So
no.
books were a primary source of entertainment at that point, too.
Well, everybody read the newspaper, everybody read books or something.
Okay.
So anyway, and that's the bookstore we took. And then the sign problem came up, because then I started franchising that store. we opened other stores, and we was having the same problem getting signs in other cities. And I told Teresa, we're going to start a sign business. I found a company that made styrofoam letters, and all I had to do was put glue in the back and put the sign up on the wall. And so I started this thing called Presto Signs. You know, you could have your signs within 72 hours. You could have a sign in 72 hours, not 72 months.
Wow. So, and that's basically you were just taking the styrofoam letters and making signs out of those then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would just call them, tell them, and I needed 12-inch letters in a certain font. And they would make the letters, send them to me. I'd take it out there and look. After I closed the bookstore at night, I'd go put the signs up on other businesses. One of them we did called Claxton. I think it's Claxton Chicken Farm in Claxton, Georgia. That sign is still up there, and that was 40-something years ago.
Wow.
It's the best buy they ever made.
How close is that to Atlanta? I might have to roll by there and see this thing.
It's south of Atlanta. You go through Macon and then down to
Okay.
Statesboro, then Glenville, Claxton, and all that area.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, and so, you know, I say that to say this. You need to get educated. You know, I don't want to knock education because I love education. I get educated every day. But before wealth creation, there's education. Get educated on some project or some thing that you can offer to the public that they'll pay you for. I'll give you another, for instance. Where was I at? One of the things that happened in the sign business too is I was going through Florida, and I saw a little store that said, you know, one day signs. After I did my thing with the styrofoam letters, and it said one day signs. I thought, one day, that's better than 72 hours. So I stopped by, and I met a little girl in there, and she showed me a plotter, and she gave me a catalog, and I went back and I told Teresa, I said, we're not going to have one sign shop, we're going to have a sign shop in every major city in the United States. Because I always wanted to own a business in every city in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a huge feat.
Well, McDonald's did it, you know.
Yeah.
Ray Kroc. Ray Kroc was 40-something years old when he got that thing started. He had arthritis so bad he could hardly walk. And I thought, well, if he can do that, I can damn well do that. So I got that book and bought that plotter, took off like a scalded dog, and we started opening stores.
And we renamed it Sign It Quick.
Yeah, it's called Sign It Quick, and we're still operating today. I mean, it's done millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. So anyway.
And there's a couple lessons in the book. You guys will have to check it out, right? 10 Lessons of Legacy Wealth, right?
10 legacy lessons.
10 Legacy Lessons of Wealth. That talks about investing money and the dividends of that. There's an incredible formula that you have in there that talks about how to judge your returns and how to pick the right investments. Right. So for those of you that are listening in that maybe have some questions about what to pick and what to get involved with, that was one of my biggest struggles. Is like, okay, well, where do you if once you accumulate some wealth, where do you put it? How do you make more money with it? And that's actually broken down in this book too. So if you've got questions, he's got answers, right? The book has answers for you.
That's a good formula. I will say this, though, that I don't care what you're doing, and you're in the perfect business. I don't care what you're doing, what your talent is, what skills or what problem you're solving. You've got to get your product seen, heard, read about, and talked about. If you don't get that product or service seen, heard, read, and talked about, you're going to be broke. You can have the best price, best guarantee, the best service, the best customer clientele relationships. If no one knows you exist, you don't exist. So everyone needs it. They don't need to know marketing, but they need to have somebody on board that knows marketing. They need to hire somebody or do something. In the beginning, you might have to do your own marketing, but you've got to get that product seen, heard, read about, talked about.
Yeah, and it's
That's what you guys do for a living.
It made or broke. It would have made or broken us. And ironically,
you can't run a business, though, Alan.
Nope.
You cannot run a business, do customer service, ordering, collections, installations, and all that stuff, and go out and learn what it takes to become a great marketer. Because if you're trying to do two things, if you're trying to push two cars up a hill, you push one up and go, okay, I'm gonna go push the other one down. You push this one comes back down, and you just never get anywhere. You just keep doing this. So you need to have people on board that know those things. And if you can't pay them, find them that'll teach you for free. Go to the internet. Go to Google and put in marketing. Learn all you can until you can afford to hire somebody. But as soon as you can afford it, hire somebody.
Yeah, we had that problem ourselves in 2017. I covered it in one of my previous episodes that I deployed, and up to that point, all of my marketing had been networking and referral based. And the second that my competitors found out I was deployed, they started telling everybody I closed, and then I left. And we lost 80% of our business, of our clients. 80% of I had my staff turned over twice in a 6-month period. I went from being one of the top in the city to being non-existent, and had to rebuild the whole business. So whenever I decided to dig in and revamp everything, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to build this thing that's independent of my ability to go network. It's going to bring money in whether I'm sleeping or whether I'm working. And we mastered the ability to do online marketing with Google Ads and Facebook and all the stuff that was out there. And, I haven't networked now other than working with the North Charleston Chamber hardly at all in years. And because it just kind of brings in and does its own thing, right? And that's the difference, is that if you cover it, I think you've already said it once today. If you're the one that's doing all the work, then you are the asset.
And if your asset's not there, your asset broke.
And I found that out real quick in 2017. Learned that lesson real fast.
I told you that years ago.
Yep, it finally stuck whenever I went through that. I'm like, oh man, that makes sense. You learn it the hard way. It really it'll stick there.
Exactly. Investing. You talk about investing. I don't want to skip that.
Yep.
There's a couple of things we do. If we're just investing in something like you invest your money in a stock or insurance policy, and they tell you you're going to get 1 or 2%, whatever the number is. You can use something called the rule of 72. And I don't know if you remember what that is, but anytime somebody tells you you're going to get whatever percentage they're getting, if you're getting 5%, 10%, 15 or 20%, but they always tell you you're going to get a guaranteed 1% or 2%. Annuities are kind of like that. We'll give you a 2% deal. Well, if you want to find out how fast your money will double, because what you want to do is put some money in something and have it double. Let's say you're getting 1% on your money. It'll take you 72 years to turn $1,000 into $2,000.
Jeez,
that's a little long.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be very happy with that performance.
But that's what everybody's doing. They got it in the bank. They're getting less than 1%.
Yep.
So if you really want to know how long it's going to take your money to grow, so you can live once you retire, just take whatever percentage they're guaranteeing and divide it into 72. It'll give you the number.
Okay.
If you're getting 7%, right, into 72, it'll take you 7.2 years. If you're getting 5%, it's going to take you 15 years to double your money. So I like to get somewhere between 20 and 25 and 30% on my money.
Yeah, I mean that. So you're shooting for what, 2 years or so?
A
year?
lot of times here's the formula really help you. But the rule of 72 is really, really important. Because when you sit down with financial planners and stuff, and they say you're going to get this percentage, you just say, okay, if I put 10,000 in it, or 20,000 or 30,000 in it, how long is it going to be before I get double that money? So just divide whatever percentage is into 72, and you will have the answer to how long it's going to take you. And then you decide where to put the money, because there's always other options out there. The other thing that we use is really good, and it's called the investment formula, is if we're gonna buy something, we ask ourselves, how much does this cost? How much does this asset cost? Because I want to buy something that's going to make me money. How much does the asset cost? How long before I get all my money back? And how many more years of generation will that thing create income? And then how sure am I of the top three? So there's really 4 questions that I ask myself. And if I cannot answer these questions, I'm not allowed to. I don't allow myself to buy it. How much does it cost? How long before I get my initial investment back? How many more years or months or whatever? And then how many years or generations will that thing keep producing income? And I'll give you a perfect example. At our sign shop on Dorchester Road in Charleston, Sign It Quick, 10 years ago, about 11 years ago now, I bought a plotter that prints signs. We paid $15,000 for that plotter. That plotter just gave out not too long ago. It produced over $10 million in signs on a $15,000 investment. I got my money back probably in the first 6 months or 7 months that I owned that plotter.
I can't even do the math. What is it? 1,000%?
Oh, it's beyond
over 10 years.
We just replaced that machine with a faster, easier to run machine plotter at a lower cost. If it keeps doing what it's doing, it'll be another 15 or 20 years before I buy another one. We'll do another, just in that one shop, millions and millions of dollars. So you ask yourself these 4 questions. How much is it? How fast do I get that investment back? How many more years or generations will it create income? And how sure am I of those top 3 questions? So
And you got to be totally sure of all 3 of those?
You got to be sure of it.
Okay.
You got to be at least damn well close.
Yep.
And even
otherwise,
if
it's a
you
risk.
miss it, you're still going to come out okay.
That makes sense.
When we buy real estate, and we invest most of our money into real estate, I want that real estate. The reason I love real estate is you get paid up front and on the back end. It's a multi-dimensional investment, and you get appreciation. You get tax write-off, and you never pay for the asset. The tenant pays for the asset. So it's probably one of the best investments in the world, to be honest with you. Most people in real estate will make about 20 to 30% on their money year after year. Well, if you divide...
Well, that's pretty exceptional because most stocks and bonds and annuities are in the single digits.
Well,
right? And unless you have just an incredible economy run, and that's usually only for a couple of years.
Bond, they go up and down with the market. But ask yourself those 4 questions. What does it cost? How many more months or years will it take me to get my money back? And then how many more years or generations will it create income? And how sure am I of the top 3?
That's incredible. I hope that those are listening and actually use it. I hope that they take it in. There's, like you mentioned, there's a handful of lessons that you taught me early on. Some of those applied, some of those I didn't. The ones I didn't, I usually learned. Yeah, the ones I didn't, I started learning a couple years later how important they really were. They come back around. As you kind of go through the book, a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. In Legacy Lesson number 5, you mentioned there's 7 cycles of wealth.
Right.
Can you share the first couple of those? We don't want to give the whole book away. We want people to go read it, but what are maybe the first 2 or 3 of those cycles, and how did your understanding of them change your life?
That's a really good question, a good way to ask it. First of all, most people make money. They gather money. Most people go to work every day and they do gather money. So you got to learn to gather money through a talent or a skill or solving a problem. We've already covered that, right?
Yeah.
And almost everybody does that. I don't care what you're doing, you're going to make a little money. Then you got to learn how to grow the money. But you can't grow the money if you spend all the money you earned to begin with. So you want to make sure that when you get a paycheck, you set aside, 5, 10, or 20% of your paycheck, and then live on 75% or 85% of your income, and put money aside, or you'll never be able to invest in anything, and you'll just work the rest of your life and never have anything. So you got to learn to gather it, and then you're going to grow it, then you're going to invest it, and then you invest it by asking yourself some questions. How much does it cost? You see how simple this is?
Yeah.
This is almost like riding a bike.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. You got to gather it. In other words, if you spend everything you earn, you're going to work till the day you die. I mean, literally till the day you die. But if you take part of that income, 10%, 20%, whatever you can afford, you've got to start saving 1%, do it. But sooner or later it'll grow, and then you can take that you gathered and and now you've grown it a little. Now you can invest it, and you can take as little as $500 and buy something. You can go out and buy a tax lien certificate. You can buy a $40,000, $100,000, $200,000 house for $500 because they hadn't paid the taxes on the damn thing. And if they don't come in and pay the taxes, you own that house and you pay $500 for the house.
Wow.
So a tax lien certificate is one of the best investments you'll ever do in your life. It's crazy. So there's just a lot of little things to learn in this book that make life so much simpler. And the reason that magic happens when you read it is people want to be around you because you know that there's two economies. You know all these things.
Yeah, so I have two more questions for you as we kind of close out.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so much for your time. I've already had discussions with people after reading the book that are close in my life that are involved within finances and decisions with my finances and stuff. And we've already talked about some of the changes that we're going to make to actually deploy some of the lessons that you guys have inside that book. There's so many financial books that are out there, and there's so many gurus
They're
and
not gurus.
there's so many people talking on the internet and just like we're doing right now, but we're gurus.
You are doing it.
Right, and they make it this big cloud to try to figure out. What I loved about your book is that it was just simple. It was a step by step. Hey, go do this, and you're gonna succeed. And for those that have that cloud that just don't know what to do, like this is the answer. It is so easily explained.
Right.
A kid could do it.
Literally, if you can learn to tie your shoes, and that's not easy to learn, or ride a bike or drive a car. Now just pick something that you pick that one thing you wanted to learn. You learned it. Now you can do it. You can do it with your hands off. You can stand up on it and everything else. But if you don't learn it, so before wealth gets education, before you get wealthy, you have to get educated on wealth.
As people go through life, you mentioned earlier, right? Everybody has a problem. There's problems everywhere. But in your life, you came up with a way to tackle problems and to make it so that they weren't this big, overwhelming, anxiety-filled issue, right? Can you kind of go into a little bit about your methodology with problem solving, which will maybe help some of these people figure out that the problem isn't that big and they can maybe move on and start investing some money?
Well, maybe it is big. It could be huge. If you got money to solve a problem, it's not a problem. It's just a situation. If you don't have money, it's a problem.
That's true. That's true. Money certainly helps you solve.
Now, what we're getting ready to talk about, Teresa and I use probably 10 times a day. It's
Okay.
called box and decide. We call it box and decide. We put the problem in a box, okay? Well, let me explain it so it makes sense to the people listening. Every day you have problems. You may have problems with your health. I just talked to a guy, you heard me a while ago, he just had a stroke. He's got a problem. Now he's going to have another problem because he's not going to be able to work, so that problem's stacking up. And he's got to pay his bills, and he's got to pay his car note, and he's got to pay his insurance, he's got to pay his water, he's got to pay his sewage. He's got to feed his wife and his kids. Those are problems. So what we do is we take the problem and put it in a box, and because every night when you go to sleep, and I still go through this, I am fighting this every night, I'm telling you. I get thinking about things, and you got all this weight on you. Well, you got to take the weight off. You want to distribute the weight across the deal. So we put the problem in a box, and then we say, okay, we decide what we're going to do with that problem. And then we take the next one and put it in the box. We decide what to do with that problem. We take the next one and put it in the box. We decide what we're going to do. And now the weight is distributed. And once we decide it, we go do it. And if it doesn't work out, then we box and decide it again. We come up with a solution that we think is right. And once we put it in there, we put a team together to go do it, or we go do it. And then we go to the next one and the next one. But if you don't separate those problems and get that weight off of you, it's too vague. You can't solve it. So take the problem, put it in the box, decide what you're going to do, work on that. If that doesn't work, then get some advice and work on it again. If that doesn't work, but it's kind of like you did when you lost everything. You decided you didn't do it on purpose, but you put your problem here and said, okay, what are we going to do about it? What you probably didn't do is you didn't get hooed up.
Nope. Sure didn't.
You just trying to do it all yourself.
But I wish I would have.
Yeah. You got to get hooed up, and there's a good book out there called Who Not How. You know, rich people never ask how to do something. They ask who knows how to do it and who knows what to do. And then we go find those people, either pay them or get advice from them. But if you're not hooed up, you're tied up. And people who try to handle all their problems are tied up because they're trying to handle the whole damn thing by themselves. But once you get hooed up, you get freed up. And every time I see somebody that's going through crap, I know you don't have to know the answer to anything but your deal, what you're taking care of. And then go get either free advice from a friend or get on the internet, and the thousands of people will tell you exactly how to solve that problem. Because you're not ever going to run into a problem that billions of people haven't been through before. And there's answers out there. So don't try to solve them all yourself. Get hooed up. Ask yourself, who knows how to do it, who knows what to do.
Well, what I love about the box on the side method is that it takes the problem and it makes it into a project, right? It's now a to-do list.
You can't. If you'll just and that's in the book. Turning your problems into projects. Never try to solve the problem. Turn it into a project. You can solve a project. You cannot solve a problem. It's too damn big.
Yep, I love it. I've been using that principle for years.
Yeah.
It was that one, and then this isn't in the book. This is just because I happen to have known Frank for the last 15 years now. But one of the things that you taught me way back when was everybody's in the hurricane, right? And they like to hang out in the winds and the chaos and the rain and all the craziness of the hurricane. But if you can take yourself and move yourself into the eye, it's calm. There's no winds, there's no clouds, it's sunshine, right? So let everybody else hang out in the winds around you and be the hurricane, and just stay within your own little eye and control what you can control, and let everything else happen, because it's going to happen anyways.
Yeah, and the hurricane is in the book.
Was it in the book?
I think it's in the book.
I'm not sure.
If it's not, I'm going to give you another perspective on that now, okay? So Trish and I have always wanted to be in the eye of the hurricane, because on the outside all the debris is flying and it can cut you or kill you or just it can slice you to pieces. We stay in the eye of the hurricane where it's calm and peaceful. And before we bring anybody into the eye of the hurricane with us to work with us or to be a friend, we say, what kind of debris are they bringing with them? When you bring an employee on or a friend on, you're bringing them into a quiet eye that you and your family built. And they're bringing their dogs, they're bringing their drugs, they're bringing their cursing, they're bringing their lying, they're bringing their complaints, and now you got to deal with their stuff. So we are very cautious who we let talk to our children when they were young, who we let them see, because we knew that they would get exposed to all this stuff over here that they would bring back over here. And so, although what you learned was good, just remember, when you hired this young man right here, you not only hired him, you hired everything. If his mom gets sick, he's not going to be at work. If his dog gets sick, he's not going to be at work. If he gets a stroke, he's not. You're bringing in everything that's in his life into your life. So be very, very particular who you let into the eye of the hurricane. And you understand that too now, right?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's really another refined study of the obvious.
It's great. It's great advice that, the lessons that you've always taught have been so simple, but yet few people ever do them.
They never
Right?
slow down. When I fell off that ladder, I had weeks to lay in bed and think about the two economies, to think about I didn't think so much about how to invest. We didn't have a lot at that time. But so many lessons came out of that one fall on that. It was so cold that month. It was like once in a 1,000-year storm in Georgia. Everything froze up. The freeway was frozen and everything. When you walked in the grass would actually break and stuff. And then I was climbing up that damn aluminum ladder and fell off 2 stories. laid in bed for weeks, and we were broke. We had no money, no heat in the house, no nothing. And I went, Frank, you're 32 years old. If you're so damn smart, why don't you have $35 to pay the lot rent on this mobile home? And I was fighting with my own self. I was fighting my own battles in my head. I said, I'm going to figure this shit out.
That is an insane wake-up call.
It changed our entire life. It changed everything in our life. And we put this stuff in this book because we want people's lives to be changed. There's so many people out there struggling, and they want to upgrade their car. They want to upgrade their house. They want to upgrade their TVs and their phones, and they want to upgrade where the kids go to school and how they retire. It only takes a few lessons to learn that. So I hope we've covered some of them tonight or today.
Absolutely. Well, and I like to kind of close every episode with a couple of questions. And the first one of those would be, what's next? What's next for Frank and Teresa?
Well, we've asked ourselves that 1,000 times. I love doing what I'm doing so much, because all I do is talk, eat, and make money. I mean,
That's a pretty good life.
People say, when are you going to slow down? And I said, if I slowed down, what would I do? They said, well, you get a chance to, go do what you want to do. I said, well, I do that now. I don't go anywhere I want to go. I can do it.
That's a good point.
You can travel the world. I say, well, we have traveled the world. We've been around, all around the world. And so I love this. I want to do this, for a while. And Teresa will tell you, I got about 6 businesses I'd like to start, but I don't know if I want to do that.
No, you're not.
It's a lot of time.
I can always give the ideas to somebody else, right, and enjoy it. My whole life is about enjoying studying, writing, and teaching. Is my whole life now. So, yeah, I think she's into health like I'm in the business, and she's in the business, and like I'm in the. She's taught me everything about health. I mean, what am I, 82? Yeah. I'm on nothing at all except nutritional products.
That's right.
And the only reason I use a crutch is because I've injured my back, and I can't, other than that, I'm perfect. So.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And so you can tell them what's next for you. I mean,
Enjoying life, being in the moment. I've got chickens, I've got grandkids, I've got
plants.
Yeah, I've got wonderful things. And Frank is right. I mean, we get up in the morning when our bladders wake us up. We don't usually have to get up early, which is a blessing to me. And we get to do what we want to every day. And a lot of it does relate to work and getting things done and taking care of tenants and things like that. And a lot of it is just enjoying the moment. So we have done a lot of travel in our history. So I'm glad we have. And I love being at home, and I love taking care of things around there, and we love our family and our friends, and it's just nice to not be anxious about where's the next bill going to get paid or whatever. It's just very nice to have that worry not there, because I know a lot of people deal with that all the time.
Yeah, I think being present in the moment's a lesson that I've started to really learn over the last couple of years that I've tried to employ. In today's rat race of business and everything else, you're always focused on what's the next big idea, the next big client, the next big project, and taking the moments to stop whenever you're in the middle of, I would find myself at like football games even, right? The height of some of the things that I enjoy in life, and I would be thinking about Monday morning meetings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got to stop that. You got to just be present and enjoy what's in front of you right this moment, and it changes your life.
It does.
That one thing. If you can, the earlier that you can learn that lesson,
Yeah.
man, it'll give you some good perspective.
Yeah.
Well, if you're interested in other people, rather than just concentrating on yourself, it's kind of easy to be in the moment at a time. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
I love seeing your growth. I love talking to you. You got a lot to teach people.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. Most people do. You can learn a lot from people who are broke. Don't do what the masses do. Just supply what the masses buy.
Absolutely.
Don't do what they do. Just supply what they buy. If you supply what people buy,
you're gonna fly.
Champagne and cocaine. And I have never drank, and I don't trade drugs, so I'm just a joke.
There's no endorsement there. Don't send us any letters. No Facebook messages. So, in the last question I have for you is, what would you say is the most obviously we mentioned the two economies, right? But there's so much that's in that book, but also that you guys have learned just from. You guys have met some of the most impactful, most powerful teachers in the world of the last century. What would you say is one of the top lessons in overcoming adversity that y'all have learned?
The overcoming adversity.
I'll kick it off
Go ahead.
because I really want to share this. I think it's so important. I was a school teacher for 8 years, and everybody has been to school, right? So I want you to imagine sitting in a class and being berated by the teacher, having the teacher tell you, Frank, you just need to be an elevator operator. I know Frank shared some of his history with me, and he used to start fights to get out of reading out loud because they used to do that in classes. They'd have everybody take turns standing up, and he couldn't do it. And so he would do anything to prevent that. And he was berated by the teachers and also by some of the kids. So just want you to imagine going through that now. And what Frank has shared with me and his mother when she was alive is that she really emphasized to Frank to listen to the voices in his own head much more than any voices around. She told him when he was going through all of this that, Frank, one day you're going to be in the White House. And by golly, he was. It's in the book. So he learned to listen to the positive voices around him and to the voices inside his own head. And that is who Frank is today. I mean, very few people can, well, I'm sure it bothers him, but if people say negative things to you or about you, it usually goes in and, it really kills you, right? With Frank, he deals with it, but he is so solid in his own beliefs about himself. He cares about people so much, and his family so much. And that's what comes through. That's what's made him the person he is today. So all that adversity, whatever everybody's going through, everybody goes through adversities, I think. Those days in the schoolroom that were horrible at the time turned Frank into the very positive, encouraging person that he is today. So.
Everything you do in life, and I'm talking to everybody out there, there's only two reasons you do the things you do. The picture in your head and the words you say to yourself about those pictures. And before I figured out what I wanted to do, I figured out who I wanted to be. And I didn't want to be the person who worked. I wanted to be the person who wanted to give people work.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
You got to think through it a little bit.
I wanted to sign.
Resonate.
I wanted to sign the front of the check, not the back of the check all the time. But now I sign the front of the check to pay people, but I get a lot more checks that I sign on the back and put a lot more money in the bank. But remember that everything, how you treat your wife, how you treat your kids, how you treat your community, how you treat everybody, is because of the picture in your head and the words you say to yourself about those people. Like people up north, and there's nothing against them, but they'll say things like, "This is my old lady," or "This is my bitch." They think that's a compliment, I guess. But in the South, that's not what we say.
No, to get you slapped. Or
Yeah.
she'll say, bless your heart,
Yeah.
which you might want to get slapped instead.
But that's the picture they have in their head. During Vietnam, when I was in the military, 6-year-old kids would come out with machine guns and kill grown men that were walking into the camp. Because that's the picture they had in their mind. They've been taught. So you do everything because of the picture in your head and the words you say to yourself. And we say to ourselves different things. I know what I stand for. I know what I'm going to believe in. And so I just want you to know, if you change the picture, you change your life. If you change the picture and change the words in your head, you change your life.
That's incredible. And, I can...
Thank you for reminding me of that. Because my mother used to say, listen, one day you're going to write books, you'll be at the White House, you do any damn thing you want to do, and don't let anybody tell you different. her voice in my head and my voice in the head was much louder than all those idiots that telling me I couldn't do anything. The day I left school in the sixth grade changed my life because within 3 weeks later, I was making more on one weekend than the teachers were earning in a month.
Wow.
And that's a whole story in itself. Literally, I was making more money in a weekend, maybe pushed it to 2 weekends, than they made all month. And I was working 2 days a month. 2 days a week.
That's incredible. It's incredible.
Because of the picture in my head and the words I said to myself about those pictures.
Well, affirmations, right? It's true.
It wasn't an
They
affirmation, it was a real damn thing.
were real beliefs.
No, I didn't just create an affirmation. I created a real thing.
Yep.
I created a sign shop. You created this business.
Yep. You have to
That's
believe
not
it.
just an affirmation. That is a creation. Man is the most wonderful object in the world. The faster you see something new, hear something new, read something new, or meet a new person, the quicker your life changes. So every day, try to see something new, hear something new, read something new, and go try to meet a new person. Because they're going to tell you something. You're going to create a whole new life for yourself by listening to them.
Absolutely. I believe that. That's incredible. Well, as we wrap up today's episode, for those that didn't pick it up, as we mentioned, as we go through the episode, the book is called 10 Legacy Lessons of Wealth.
Yep.
And it is by Frank and Teresa AuCoin, who you've heard from the whole episode. Highly recommend going to get it. It's only $15 on Amazon. It's you can get it with your credits on Audible if you have a subscription there.
Listen, Audible
It's-
is awesome.
It's only a
People
couple
are buying-
hours.
People are buying like 10 and 12 of these and giving to their people that work in their company, and even more.
It's a great Christmas present. Christmas right around it's on my kids list.
And give it to the kids and the grandkids. And I also brought you one, by the way,
Oh, thank you.
and it's already signed.
It is
I appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome.
highly accessible. It's a must read. I believe it went Amazon bestseller or top 10.
In certain categories, it was right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not looking for it to be a bestseller. I want to. It's an evergreen book. It'll sell over the next generation. That book will keep going. And once I'm gone, Teresa will keep getting the money, and then the kids will get the money. You know, it's as a legacy thing.
One of the keys that I always like to promote with a couple of the people we've had on now that have great information, right, is having the information is one thing, executing it is another. So
But teaching it
absorb. Yeah, then you've mastered it. Then you mastered it. I remember that lesson too. So as we wrap up today's episode, though, we want to remind you that in the face of adversity, there's always a potential for growth, resilience, and success. Join us every other Monday as we continue to explore inspiring stories of overcoming challenges to help you thrive in the journey of life. Frank and Teresa, thanks for being on.
Thank you so much. We're honored.